We're here with Alistair Hirst from Dolby, and Dolby is a sponsor of the IASIG. We're very grateful for their support. And Alistair, tell us a little bit about the history of how this company has been involved in just changing the landscape of audio and music as we know it.
The company is now 60 years old. It goes back, it started with noise reduction in film back when Ray Dolby started the company. And yeah, it has evolved over the years to expand from, noise reduction in film to moving into home theaters, cars, obviously, TVs, lots of different markets. And then, games has been a big part of it since, 20, 25 years ago. We moved into that as well. And yeah, so it's across a whole bunch of places where you can hear and sound, music and sound. And the mission statement of Dolby basically is to make, the experience, a better sounding, better looking entertainment experiences.
I remember back in the early 2000s, there were multiple multi-channel sound formats. There was DVD audio, there was SACD, there were multiple SKUs in stores, and both formats failed. Mm-hmm. And I remember when Atmos came along, I was working with people who were saying, "Oh, this multi-channel stuff will never take off." And I said, "You really need to watch what's happening here," because the problem with these old formats was that they had these physical media, right? Mm-hmm. They couldn't distribute them easily or as far as you could. You have cracked that nut with Atmos and with spatial audio. It's just about everywhere now, and you've done it on both sides. You've got the studios involved in producing the content and going back through libraries and bringing those to life in multi-channel surround. How did this end up in gaming? How did that happen?
I think what it is Dolby is very good at creating the ecosystems to make this stuff all work, right? And that's one thing I sort of understood before I started working at Dolby. Once I got inside Dolby, really came to understand how Dolby is able to build these entire ecosystems. So, it goes from the creators, which obviously I work with game creators, and that we provide the tools to allow them to create, their games in Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. But then they go and, I have weekly meetings, with my partner at Microsoft where we talk through things. So what I didn't understand before I started working at Dolby is how much collaboration is going on behind the scenes with the platforms like, PlayStation or Xbox and for PC. And so we're working with the platforms, for the game side of things, obviously with films. We're working with the movie theaters and making sure everything's installed there. And music, obviously, now that Atmos is taking in there, we're working, with Atmos in cars. We're working with car manufacturers to get everything working there. So it's this process of building the ecosystem so that when you get to the end point, the stuff that's created in Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos is able to flow through, get delivered through whatever the delivery mechanism is, and then on the end point where the consumer finally gets to experience it, we've worked with, TV manufacturers and AVR manufacturers and all those, and like I said, the console manufacturers, the mobile phone manufacturers.
Sure.
That whole ecosystem works together so that we've certified everything along the way so that you get the best experience that you can get with whatever endpoint you have.
And you've been in consoles, obviously. Dolby's in what consoles now?
Wow, that goes way back to the first game that had interactive Dolby Pro Logic sound I worked on. It was the very first Need for Speed on 3DO, where we kind of rolled our own back then. But then later on, it was officially in PlayStation, starting with the PlayStation, and then on PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and the first console to support Dolby Digital, which was 5.1, was the Xbox, the original Xbox, and then it expanded past that to 7.1. And then the first game console to have Dolby Atmos was the Xbox One. And so it's on that, and now the Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5, of course.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what is the funnest thing that you have worked on at Dolby?
Oh, wow. Actually, probably, it was a highlight. There's been lots of fun things, but it was actually in this room where we worked with the Epic audio team to get a Dolby Atmos plugin to work in Unreal Engine. And so we had a prototype there, the medieval environment where it was their test environment. And so our engineers worked with their engineers to get the plugin that could be put into Unreal Engine. And then we had this demo game kind of thing where we worked right here to get all the sound in and did the final mix of it, so we could prove that it worked, figure out creatively if everything was working, and experiment with different things. For example, we got the music, which originally had just been stereo. We got the stems for that. We were able to pull apart the music and have some of the percussion and stuff were up at the front here, and then we moved the strings to the sides here, and then there was a choral thing that got moved to the rear, and then this ambient flute thing got put up to the height speakers there. So that was an exciting week, just hearing that all come together and the mix come together, and working with the Epic Audio team on that. That was really fun.
How cool.
Yeah.
It's a dream job.
Yeah, it was great.
So shifting gears, the IASIG has a working group on AI right now.
Right.
Has Dolby done anything with AI at this point?
We definitely have a bunch of initiatives going on inside Dolby, exploring different applications of it, but nothing public yet. So it's being explored and looking into it. I think something actually was just announced we're doing things which would take, on the Dolby Vision side, would be able to take video capture from phones and then be upscaled into Dolby Vision, so that with Dolby Vision, it's another format just like audio,
Sure.
which will scale from full 7.1.4 down to stereo, but maintain creative intent. The Dolby Vision for capturing stuff on your phone will then be delivered, and people will get the best experience that they can on whatever phone or type of screen that they have. So that is using AI for doing that processing.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And has Dolby done anything in education? The IASIG has an education working group,
Right.
And is now forming a new one, actually, to solve some new problems. What has Dolby done in the world of education?
Right, so we just released a learning module on learning.dolby.com, specifically for games. And it's pretty cool because it has a bunch of, like a sort of textbook thing where you can read through and find out about it and learn about how you configure middleware to support Dolby Atmos and sort of the ins and outs of all the technical details. And then there is a working game level built in Unity and a corresponding WISE project where you go in and it walks you through the steps of how you take just traditional project, and you can set up the buses the way you need for Dolby Atmos and learn how to configure that and set all the routing, and so that you can then take this level and put it into Dolby Atmos and learn what the different changes will do, and help make the creative choices for what should be an object or what should go into beds and that kind of a thing. So that's available on, like I said, learning.dolby.com.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Probably the last thing I wanted to ask you about is automotive. I know it's not related specifically to gaming, but I spent 10 years at Bose in the automotive division, and one of the things that I saw was really this future is coming where the living room on wheels will be happening. It seemed like a natural fit to me that Atmos would be in a vehicle, because you have so many speakers in there, right?
Right, yeah.
You've already got a playback platform that's 13, 16, 34 speakers, whatever it is. And tell us a little about how Dolby has made its way into the automotive world and where you see that going with regard to entertainment.
Right, yeah, that's really taking off right now, especially with Chinese auto manufacturers. That's just exploding. So yeah, it's now available, Dolby Atmos in cars, and we can deliver music in Dolby Atmos and movies, and we continue to work with streaming partners and all the people that make the head units on bringing more capabilities to that. And then we're getting lots of requests now coming in of people wanting to play games in cars, or just even interactive spatial experiences in cars. So we've been working on prototypes with some companies, and through our partnership with Audio Kinetic, we've been able to, because a lot of the games are using WISE, we've been working on enabling this pipeline where if you set your game up properly in WISE, it will flow through and when it hits the head unit in the car for the Dolby Atmos processing, that will all take that stuff all into account and play back your game in Dolby Atmos. So yeah, stay tuned for more details on that. There was an announcement at CES this year where we talked a little bit about it, but we're going to continue working with Audiokinetic on that and making it, for us, for the creators, having developed games for so long, I understand if you want these games to be in Atmos, you've got to make the pipeline,
Sure.
as rock solid and as easy as possible. So we're continuing to working with Audiokinetic on that. Some of what is happening there is we already have with Audiokinetic enabled Android, for example. So Android is big in cars as an OS on some of the cars. So we've enabled Dolby Atmos on Android phones, for example, right? And that has become even more easy in Wise. You just basically choose Android and check the 3D box, and boom, you're in Atmos. So it's taking those games that are then running on Android for auto is the stuff that we're working on to try and make that pipeline even smoother and easier to use. So stay tuned for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's people out there going, games in cars? It's happening, people. Let me tell you.
It is. Yeah. Well, the use case is, if you're sitting there charging your car and you want to play a game and
Yes.
you've got a Dolby Atmos car. I mean, there's 32 manufacturers of cars that have Dolby Atmos in the cars now.
And when the car's driving itself.
Right. And,
So
yes.
like, what are you going to do?
Play
Pass
games,
the time.
right? And then, we have in some markets that has become sort of like people's personal home theater, where
Sure.
They're spending an average of at least 40 minutes a day sitting in their car just experiencing music or watching movies, and we want to add games to that so they can get that entire experience in Atmos. When they go home and don't want to go up to the apartment with the kids, they'd rather sit in their driveway and experience in this fantastic sounding car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the future looks really, really bright.
Yes.
And in part thanks to Dolby. Thank you very much, Alistair.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and everything that Dolby's doing for the industry. And that wraps it up here at Dolby.
Right. Thank you.